All right, folks. We're going to talk about some unpleasant goings on in the fine state of Utah. Now, what's been going on there has been one of the many anti-trans bills going around the United States of America, the good old US of A. You know, land of freedom and opportunity. Arizona's bad too. Everywhere is bad. Everywhere is bad. There is not one place that is good. It is all bad. It is the dog in the burning house meme. And trans people are the dog. Okay? Yeah, Catalina Gearbox. As a normal person, you probably shouldn't be engaging with the right. Yeah, this is fine. Exactly. So here's kind of the situation going down in Utah, folks. Okay. Utah overrode a veto. The legislature overrode a veto, which means that Utah has now created a political commission charged with the inspection and analyzing of bodies and explicitly genitals of children. You heard that right. I'm just letting it sit there. Utah has convened a board of adults who are not experts in biology, in bodies, etc., to inspect children's genitalia. Now, additionally, under the bill that again has overridden a veto, these adults are immune to prosecution, meaning that they cannot be prosecuted because they are given a degree of legal immunity. So they have legal immunity while inspecting children's genitals. And these aren't done, this isn't done by doctors, this isn't done by biologists. This is just done by Randy Rando. Just like, who the fuck knows? Think pedos will apply? Well, given the proliferation of child abuse that goes on within certain institutions, especially institutions in sports, well, I wouldn't put it past them. Now, this is under the broad umbrella of protecting women in sports, protecting girls in sports from the predations of scary, scary boys that might be secretly trying via nefarious ways to get into the women's league to do better than the WUMs. Okay? This is specifically geared towards creating a body of adults who will inspect the genitals of trans children or children suspected of being trans that want to play in sports. So, I'm going to read you the text of the bill here. 53G-6-1003 School Activity Eligibility Commission Baseline Range. 1. There is created the School Activity Eligibility Commission 2A, the commission shall consist of the following members. The following 2 members whom the President of the Senate appoints: A, a mental health professional, and B, a statistician with expertise in the analysis of medical data. The following 2 members from the Speaker of the House of whom the Speaker of the House of Representatives appoints: a board-certified physician with expertise in gender identity healthcare, and B, a sports physiologist. And then the 2 members whom the governor appoints. Now, keep in mind, it does have, in this bill, very nicely, different roles that these appointees will fill. But keep in mind, they're specifically appointed by partisan politicians. They're specifically being put in place. And they are then being given legal carte blanche to do whatever they want to do. Now, let's see what this commission is going to do. The commission shall establish a baseline range of physical characteristics for students participating in specific gender-designated activity at a specific age to provide the context for the evaluation of an individual student's eligibility for a given gender-designated interscholastic activity under Section 53G-6-1004. In creating the baseline ranges, the Commission shall include the physical characteristics for the age and gender group in a given gender-designated interscholastic activity that are relevant to the specific interscholastic activity. I'm going to stop you right here. Okay? Because it continues on, obviously. There aren't gender characteristics here. Like, the gender characteristics, they aren't talking about sex characteristics. They aren't even, like, the idea that this is going to be a bill based on science is immediately undermined by the actual bill itself, which does not use scientific language, does not actually make an apparatus that is accountable to any scientific bodies or scientific standards. Instead, it is a political body appointed by politicians, again, to inspect children's genitals. The physical characteristics described in subsection 8B may include height, weight, physical characteristics relevant to the application of the standard described in subsection 53G-6-1004, or the extent of physical characteristics affected by puberty, giving consideration to the practicability of considering the physical characteristic when making an assessment of an individual student's eligibility under section 53G-6-1004. Yeah. Oh, by the way, any record of the commission, including any communication between an athletic association and the commission that relates to a specific student, is classified as a protected record. So it is going to be incredibly opaque. It's going to give legal protections to these people who are going to be examining students. And in case you want to know exactly how awful this is going to be, yeah, let's see. It goes into more specifics about who might be selected as one of these professionals. Okay. Let's take a look. A representative of an athletic association, an athletic trainer who serves student athletes on the college level, one ad hoc member serving on a case-by-case basis who is appointed by the athletic association in which the relevant student's school competes, and a certified high school coach or official who coaches or officiates in a separate region or classification from the relevant student's school and in the sport in which the relevant student seeks eligibility. So, again, folks, this is just giving coaches the ability to look at kids' genitals. By examining, do you mean raping? Look, it's very possible that there are a high number of well-meaning coaches to whom examinations would just be another part of the job. And then is a high likelihood that there are a number of coaches who would abuse that power to sexually assault children. Yes, this is a recipe for disaster. I'm sorry. Now, there will be 5 members appointed in total to this commission. Chat, how many trans student athletes do you think there are in all of Utah? Currently. Let's just see a couple guesses from chat here. 0? 0? Less than 50? Less than the digits on one hand, probably. Alt fact 16, 0, maybe 10, 4, 3, 5. Eventual ghost! You are correct. There are 5 trans student athletes in the entire state of fucking Utah. Only one of them is a trans girl. This legislation that is ostensibly drawn up to protect the integrity of girls' sports in Utah targets one trans girl. They are running this entire commission, granting them, carte blanche, like legally unaccountable, and giving them the ability to inspect students' genitalia because one trans girl wanted to play sports on the women's team. Again, now, folks, I talk about this a lot, but when anti-trans legislation gets introduced, of course it's super, super awful for trans people. But a lot of people don't realize that anti-trans legislation inevitably hurts cisgender people far more than trans people. Far more than trans people. Because there are a lot more of you cis folk than there are of us trans folk, okay? Us trans folk are going to be hurt. Definitely. But far more often, cisgender women, cisgender men are going to be hurt by this shit. Because chat, when they run out of the one certifiably trans girl in the state, well, then they have to start investigating who else might be trans. Who are the possible secret transes? I mean, after all, we know intersex people exist, right? Time to send the gender Gestapo door to door to make sure your kid doesn't have some kind of genetic condition that would force them to play in the other league, doesn't it? Doesn't this mean little boys too? Well, yeah, but let's be honest here. Republicans don't care about little boys. unless they're interested in diddling them. Yeah, we're talking about kids. Kids who are going to have to show their genitals to adults because of this weird political crusade against trans folks. Yeah, are you now or have you ever been a trans? Exactly. It is loathsome in the extreme. It is disgusting. And by the way, this is why the trans women shouldn't compete against cis women in sports argument is one that is inherently cloaked in bigotry. The argument that trans women shouldn't compete against cis women because it's unfair or whatever is just a naked play for biases. It is a naked ask to like underlying misogyny, underlying hatred or fear of men. You know, you have to be afraid. You got to be afraid of every goddamn person. That the entire ploy feels like a naked admission of insecurity. Well, yeah, of course it is. It's a naked admission of insecurity and of government overreach. Like these people in Utah are conservatives, folks. These are the people who say they're a party of small government, and they just made a commission to inspect children's genitals. So, yeah, no, Republicans are full of horse shit, okay? They have never cared about small government. That's all they say. All of it is horse shit to reel you in. Well, we can't have family values without this specific type of big government. Oh, okay. Sure. We want real freedom and small government. Now drop your pants. I need to look at your kid dick. It is disgusting. And frankly, it's one of the reasons why I'm glad that Destiny is banned off of this platform for even going full tilt at the idea that like trans women should not compete against cis women. Because guys, I've gone over the research on stream with all of you. Y'all know. Y'all know. Y'all know that there are no reputable scientific studies that show that trans women should be barred from competing against cis women. There are none. Studies show that if you've been on HRT for a year or more, you have essentially lost all of your major advantages as a trans woman. You know, as like a trans woman transitioning from like male to female, like you have essentially lost the muscle characteristics and abilities that would be beneficial to you in sports. People don't understand HRT at all. I've seen people be shown the research and still think trans women shouldn't be competing from cis women. I saw that today. Yeah, Draco Wrath. A guy in my Twitter, on Twitter, and I were having a back and forth. And he was like, well, did you know that the British Journal of Sports Medicine found this? And yeah, I know that study because I've gone over it on stream. The study that he's referencing that shows that like trans women still might retain some amount of strength advantage has several deep flaws. One of which being that it was not an investigation of trans athletes, because most studies don't have that set of that data pool because there aren't that many trans athletes. Additionally, the other issue was that study does show a big difference between cis men and trans women, and that is hemoglobin levels. And hemoglobin is incredibly, incredibly important for endurance sport. And so the endurance levels of trans women within like 6 months fall to that of cis women. So the study, which ostensibly is being used to show that like trans women maintain some sort of advantage, actually shows the opposite. And the stuff about strength is the weakest part of the research that has been has since been largely shown to be either flawed or out of date by newer studies. HRT has existed since like the 1910s. Carinola. Hormone replacement therapy was pioneered in the Weimar Republic by what's his name? Magnus something. Magnus Hirschfeld. There we go. Yeah. We've had HRT for like over 100 years now. It's so funny because all these people pretend like they understand what puberty is, but they can't really wrap their head around the idea of like 2 puberties. Yeah, Carinola. We would actually know an awful lot more about trans people right now, except that because the Weimar Republic and Magnus Hirschfeld's research on trans people were so unique, there were no copies of a lot of research on trans folk at that time. And the Nazis made it a point to burn the research of the Institute for Sexology in Berlin, which was the largest and most advanced repository of information on trans folks in the world, setting us back in our understanding of trans people by, a century. So, to the people who think, oh, being trans is this new thing, it's not. You just think that because of the fucking Nazis. So don't be a sucker. Don't fall for fascist propaganda. Support trans rights. Disgusting. Anyway, the state of Utah has now officially adopted into its legal code legalized child molestation, and I don't think that that is an overstatement. I don't think that that is an overstatement at all. It'd be nice to not have to fight to just exist, That'd be nice.